the world will put you in situations where all of a sudden you have to choose. And it's in those choices that we discover what our values really are.
Being the best at what you do in the world in which you live is enormously valuable. That if you're going to go buy a bagel or call a locksmith or anything in between, who are you going to call? You're going to call the best one. Being third is worth very little. How do you become the best one? You don't quit when everyone else does.
Entrepreneurship is just one of those jobs that really violently, deeply depends on getting it right. You have to know what reality really will entail. And in so many other kinds of business, you can kind of get away with stuff. You can mistreat people. You can, hide it in politics. There's so many ways to make money, to have success in business without actually creating any value. But if you really want to create value, then you have to be intimately connected with the truth about who your customers are, what customers want, what the economic environment that they inhabit is. And you have to be able to figure out how to build an organization that can put your principles into practice, whatever those principles are, whether you care about quality or design or health or you name it. You have to be of service to real people to create real value. So I'm really proud of the fact, I feel like Lean Startup has, from its inception, really stood for those principles, iterative development, scientific thinking, and humanistic values.
What questions are you asking that are different from what everyone else in the industry is asking? Because the questions you ask are the problem you solve.
I would encourage anyone who's not necessarily feeling confident about asking questions and being inquisitive in their classroom or their workplace, start with just one or two questions. Start with one or two people that you think will be receptive to a question. And then that's kind of how you're going to build your confidence. And you're going to realize more often than not, people have interesting things to say when you ask them questions.
Find something that you're willing to die for and then live for it.
Biggest thing I'm asking people to do is to find someone else and talk about it. Don't hide your strategy. Strategies are different than tactics. Tactics, they can be a surprise. They can be an advantage if they're a secret. Strategies, we know what Nike's strategy is. We know Netflix's strategy. We know Starbucks' strategy. It's not a secret, right? And can you tell me what yours is?
Before you start any project, anything, ask yourself 3 questions. Why this? Why now? Why me? Why this is essentially says that, God forbid, I am actually successful in solving the problem that I set out to solve. Would it help 1 billion people live a better life? If you can build any product, any service that helps 1 billion people live a better life, you can create $100 billion company.
Plans are about you exercising your agency and authority. We make a plan and then we work to make it true. Strategy isn't that. Strategy acknowledges that there are other people, that there are other systems, that what we're thinking of doing might not work. And it's hard to talk about that, to say, I'm going to go build these assets and go on this project and it might not work, but this is my strategy. So instead we default to following the crowd, whatever the crowd is doing.
Ask yourself what had changed in the last 2 or 3 years. More importantly, what do you expect to be changing in the next 3 to 5 years that will allow you to solve this problem at scale in 3 to 5 years? And this problem could not have been solved 5 years ago. And the reason to do so is to always think about, are you using yesterday's technology to solve tomorrow's problem, or you're actually intercepting tomorrow's technology to solve tomorrow's problem? So you always want to make sure that, are you actually riding the wave of exponential technology? You are in fact, or you're being crushed by the tsunami that's coming.
How do I know when to keep going versus when to pivot, when to change course?
My answer is, first, has anyone else ever made it through this dip? Has anyone else made it through the darkness and gotten out to the other side? So organic chemistry is a bear. No one likes organic chemistry. You have to get through it to get into medical school. It's a dip. They built it, not because you need organic chemistry to be a doctor, but because they need a lot of people to drop out. So if you know that, when it gets hard, you can say, good news, this is hard. now I know why it's here. If I can just make it through this on the other side, things will be better. Okay, that's different than saying, I'm going to be the first person who becomes a billionaire making YouTube videos, right? It looks like, Mr. Beast has finally figured out how to get almost there, but 1 out of 500,000 are bad odds. So if that's not a path, that doesn't mean you shouldn't try, but it means you should go in with your eyes open saying, there's a big chunk of lottery ticket here, that this isn't a well-worn path where I get through a dip and then I'm going to be fine. This is a really difficult path that's probably not going to get me to where I want to go. If you're on social media and you are listening to the crowd, it's either going to make you feel bad or it's not. If it makes you feel bad, it's because you're taking yourself seriously. If it doesn't make you feel bad, you're building too thick a skin, and that's not going to help either. So the way that I think about this is I take the work very seriously, but I'm working hard to not take any given individual's response to the work too seriously, because all that means is they didn't get the joke.
Making money happens when you're actually doing things that make people's life better. In this framework, you never want to focus on how. You focus on what is it that needs to be done and not how you're going to do that. And the reason many entrepreneurs fail is because they start to think about how they're going to do that. And most experts who start a company, they say, I don't know how to do it, so that means I'm not going to do it because it can't be done. Whereas someone comes along from outside the industry, they say, I understand what problem needs to be done. I'm going to find the right people to help me solve that problem. I may not know how to do it, but it's a problem worth solving. Break down a big problem into smaller chunks of problem, and then you start to see what problem is already solved, what problem is incremental, and what is a problem that yet to be solved. And if you can solve that, then you know everything else will fall in place.
The world will put you in situations where all of a sudden you have to choose. You can't have both. In your fantasy, when you're thinking the fantasy plan of your startup, of your business, of your career, of whatever, you get to have it all. Your product is infinitely cheap and everybody loves it. There's no customer segmentation. Every customer loves it equally. It has no externalities. The press writes nice things about you. You win the Nobel Prize. Like, all the good things happen to you. But in real life, that's not how it works. In real life, you have to choose. Do you want to serve this customer or that customer? Do you want it to be high quality and expensive, or low quality and inexpensive? Do you want to have it be this business model or that? Do you want to write something that, build something that the press loves but customers hate, or vice versa? We often have to choose. And it's in those choices that we discover what our values really are. So even if someone says, like, I think your product sucks, what they're really telling you is about what they want in their product. It's clearly not what you made for them. If they tell you you're a bad person, that doesn't necessarily reflect a moral failure on your part. It just reflects their perspective. Like, that's what they feel and think.
Don't look at the life as success or failure. Redefine what success is. Your self-worth doesn't come from how much you own. Your self-worth comes from how much you create. So if you own a lot and you haven't created anything, you're still a parasite on society. So don't be a parasite.
If you lived on a deserted island with your family and nobody could see how you were living, nobody could see your house, nobody could see your cars, your clothes, your jewelry, completely walled off from the eyes of the world, how would you choose to live? What kind of house would you want to live in? What kind of car would you drive? People are so naturally wired to compete with other people and try to inject themselves on the social hierarchy that it's kind of a daily battle with that. I mean, it's similar with food and whatnot. Some people eat really good diets, but don't pretend that you don't crave M&Ms. You do. They're delicious, right? And so even if you eat a good diet, it's probably a daily battle to pull yourself away from the temptations. As soon as my goal becomes, I want to use money to impress millions of other people outside of my life, I think that's a fruitless endeavor. And I think that's where the immediate, if your goals are less about independence and more about how can I display to the rest of the world that I've achieved some level of status, and I think they're going to admire me for that status, which is a faulty assumption most of the time. That's where I think people can go astray. Don't spend money on things, spend money on experiences. I think a lot of things are awesome, and a lot of experiences can leave you pretty empty. Particularly in the social media world, I think of a lot of people, I would venture to say most people, pick their next vacation based off of what's going to make the best picture on social media.
Oh, that's interesting.
And I've talked about this before. You know what my personal example of this is? This is very subjective. People can disagree with this. Bali. I think Bali is
super overrated.
Completely overrated.
Okay.
We went there. It's not bad, but I've been to so many other tropical places that were 10 times better. The emotion that people want is contentment. So when you daydream about what life will be like when you're in the beautiful house or when you're retired, whatever that might be, and it feels great. You're like, oh, that life would be amazing. What you're actually doing in that moment is you're imagining yourself in that dream house and being content with it. That's what feels good, is you imagine yourself sitting on the balcony and saying, or thinking to yourself, I don't need anything else. This is as good as it gets. That's what feels good. The more common reality is that if you get to that dream house someday, you get out on the balcony and you're like, the ceiling's leaking. The neighbor's house is bigger. The sun's in my eye. And you're just not content in that moment. And so I think that what people are actually striving to pursue is content. It's just getting to an area where you're like, I'm good. I've got everything I need right now.
So here's the close. Are you still waiting on the silver bullet? Are you willing to forego the silver bullet and pick up the lead bullets? Because the people in this world who win, they don't wait for the perfect shot. They just keep firing. I actually think what's holding you back is between the ears. I think it's what you believe about yourself. What you believe about yourself will ultimately dictate the outcome of your life. What do you believe about yourself? That's where you should start, because what you believe about yourself will be the limiter in everything. No breakthrough is actually coming to save you. There isn't one thing that's going to come to your rescue. Only progress. And progress over time creates habits that create success. You don't need the right hire. You don't need the right deal. You don't need the right strategy. What you need is more bullets. You need more conversations. You need more attempts. You need more iterations. You need more swings. Malcolm Gladwell says that in order to be an expert in anything, you got to put 10,000 hours in. And no one saw the 10,000 hours. Very few people saw when I was sitting at a desk late at night in my 20s, thinking and dreaming and working and pushing when everybody else had gone away. Nobody saw I came into corporate America very young, and my boss said, in order for you to be taken seriously because you're so young, you need to wear a suit and tie every day. Well, all my counterparts, they might have wore dress clothes at the business I was in, but they never dressed to that level. I could not afford the suits that I literally had to go get a job at a suit store to get a discount on the suits. I then bought the suits at the suit store and then went and worked my second job in order to be taken seriously in my early 20s. And I was competing with 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, because that was who was successful at that work. But very few people saw that. Very few people saw me working at a mall, at a suit store, until 10 o'clock at night, just so that I could afford the very thing that I was told could be successful. And by the way, none of it matters, right? Like, all of us have to go through it. That shouldn't be a moment where I'm like, pat me on the back because I did these things. And honestly, you should be waiting on the pat on the back either. The fact of the matter is success comes to the diligent. Success comes to those who are dedicated, who are willing to get under the weight over time. They're willing to persevere. And in the end, that is the game. That is what you have to do to be successful.